No matter how hard you prepare, there's no amount of training that can prepare you to deal with difficult coaches. And that's why our topic today is all about how to deal with difficult coaches. Hello, it's Dr. Jason Parker with JP3 Training, where our goal is to grow young athletes and help them get the most from their training. I have been blessed to have a lot of success in my playing career. I was a high school All-American, an ESPN All-American at the Division I level, played over 6 years pro, overseas, as well as in the D-League. The foundation of my success was really based on the fact that I was a hard worker. I was always prepared. I was always engaged. And so you would think in that situation, you would always be the apple of your coach's eye. However, it happened to me just like it will eventually happen to not only player, but every person, because it happens to us as people. We run into difficult situations with difficult people, whether it's a difficult leadership style, whether it's two personalities that don't mesh, or two personalities that clash. No matter what the situation is, you're more likely than not to deal with coaches that are going to be difficult. And these situations are the most perplexing ever. For young athletes that are locked in, that are engaged at the highest level, you would never think it would be a coach that would possibly derail your engagement, your ability to achieve your goals, but sometimes this is the case. And so today we want to prepare you and prime you to be ready to deal with these types of situations. So if you're in the situation where you're dealing with a difficult coach, the very first thing I need you to do is stop playing the blame game. As parents, when things go wrong, we naturally want to blame someone because we know our intentions are positive. We know we want the best for our kids, and we know that more often than not, we've put in the right inputs to create the right outputs. So when it's not happening, frustration ensues, and often the coach serves as the center of that frustration. I would even go so far to say that as parents, we sometimes feel inadequate, as though we let our kid down by maybe putting them in this situation or not preparing them for the situation that the coach is frustrated with them about, or whatever the case may be. There are some internal conflicts there that cause us to want to blame, be angry, and lash out. And really what it comes down to is we just don't know what to do. And as parents, we're not often in this situation because we can always go find help. We can always make adjustments. There are lots of things that are at our disposal that we have used throughout the course of our young athletes' careers to really help them continue to break through problematic situations. I can remember when I got to college was the first time I ran into a coach that was a difficult situation for me. I actually was recruited by Bill Self to the University of Tulsa, and he left prior to my freshman year. Well, we get a new coach in, and that coach didn't recruit me. And so my style maybe wasn't necessarily what he was looking for. And maybe he just didn't have the same plan for me as my original coach did, as the coach that recruited me did. And so it ended up being a situation so difficult that it caused me at one point to really want to quit basketball. And as parents, we've been through this, whether it's at work, whether it's in a personal relationship, in a business relationship. We've often had difficulty with others that have caused us to question our purpose. And what's so hard about this as a parent is that you just don't know what to do. So I need you to recognize a few things. Recognize that coaches, like all people, make mistakes. Coaches also, like all people, have preference. They may like a certain player in that position because of a myriad of reasons. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the fact that one player is better than another. Sometimes, and oftentimes, it's just about fit. Sometimes it's situational. And yes, you're right. Sometimes it may even be political. But we all have our leaning. We all have different things that we prefer. And at the end of the day, only 5 athletes get to go out on a basketball court or 11 on a football field or soccer pitch or whatever the case may be. There's a limited number of spots for who can play. The biggest reason I need you to stop playing the blame game is because blaming doesn't help. The next thing I need you to realize is that playing time takes time. Okay, I don't care who you are or what position you're in. Where you're at right now is a result of what you've put into it, okay? We only get out what we put in. And so, of course, when we're just seeing from a certain perspective, it may seem like some people's road was easier than others, but you never know the work that others have put in. And sometimes the work may be in a non-traditional sense. I know for me, I was always somebody who was going to get up and run a mile, get up and lift weights, go shoot 1,000 shots, 2 or 3 days a week. And I was always putting in work in the traditional sense. But recognize that work comes in a variety of factors. Sometimes there's the kid that may have to walk a mile home every day, and maybe he's quicker or has stronger endurance because of that. That's work. That's work that life caused him to do. That is organic work. There may be a young athlete who has a difficult home life, and because of that, he has a certain resilience, a certain moxie to him or her that causes him to not crack under pressure. Well, that's work, no different than getting up early and doing 100 push-ups. And a lot of times as parents, we don't recognize that. All we recognize is that kid doesn't even show up to all the practices. He doesn't make as many shots as you. He's not as good a ball handler, and so on and so forth. And recognize that not only does this not matter to the coach, but it also doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I'm a person that has multiple degrees, has a law degree. I've put in the work academically. However, I've lost job opportunities before to people who were quote unquote less educated than me. But a lot of times they had non-traditional education, maybe through experience, maybe through somebody they were connected to, whatever the case may be. The person who made the decision on the job, i.e. the coach, it is a subjective decision based on his or her reasoning and based on his or her reasoning alone. Next, I have to have you realize that pressure is a part of the process, okay? We all know the cliches, pressure makes diamond. There's no testimony without a test. We all know trust the process. We all know that pressure makes things better. We've all been through our pressures ourselves, but for some reason, we want our young athletes to skirt around every pressure and every process. After I went through this initial tough year as a freshman, it prepared me and gave me a hunger like no other. Sure, some people in that situation may have fallen off, may have quit, may have not stayed the course. And that's ultimately what life is trying to determine. I talk a lot about commencing with commitment, meaning you're into this training thing, you're into this development thing, you're into this getting better thing forever, whether the sun's out or if it's raining, whether it's hot or cold, whether the sun's out or the moon is out. Always, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And the resilience I gained from this particular situation allowed me to become a two-time All-American, a first-team All-Conference player, and ultimately a professional athlete because it made me want it more than anything. So I'm encouraging you when you're dealing with difficulty of any type, not just coaches or people, it may be some other situation. However, whatever the case may be, trust the process. Now, with that being said, I counsel a lot of young athletes and their parents. And one thing I tell them all is you have to find your tribe. So hopefully you've done your due diligence before choosing a team or a school or any type of athletic situation, even a training situation. So while doing that, you have to find your tribe. You have to go where that fits with you. You have to find situations that align with your particular young athlete and where they are celebrated and not tolerated. So it's important that you don't just dump your young athlete into any atmosphere. You must prime the atmosphere just like a farmer primes the ground to make sure that the seed will produce a harvest. But even if you have found your tribe and you know the ground where your young athlete is good ground and it's the right soil and the right climate, the right amount of water, just for some reason, there's a difficult phase, I encourage parents to employ the 12-month test. For at least 12 months, I need you to cultivate a mindset that's going to help you to persevere through this pressure situation and dealing with a difficult coach. First, commit to cultivation, not celebration. What this basically means is we all choose places based on it being somewhere that celebrates us, somewhere where we're needed, somewhere where our skills and our characteristics matter. We do this in individual, personal relationships. We do this in business relationships. We do this in work relationships. So even though we base a lot of our choices on celebration, for at least 12 months, I need the primary consideration to become cultivation. Am I growing? I tell a lot of my clients, I typically have to take you down before I can take you up. I've got to break down some bad habits. I've got to test you in some ways that maybe you haven't been tested before. And maybe this is what the coach is doing. So listen to the message and not the mess. If what coach is saying is true, is there some information in this message that could allow my young athlete to improve? So commit to cultivation. The other thing is, during this 12-month test, don't stick in the down, okay? There's going to be downs, there's going to be up. That's just part of the natural course of life, not only an athletic career. Don't stick in the downs, okay? When it's down, do whatever you can do to keep moving forward. Some of the best coaches I've ever played for, after a bad loss that was just out of the blue, that was out of our character as a team, we just wouldn't watch film. We would just wipe our hands and move on to the next thing. And sometimes as a parent, whether it's a bad game, whether it's a bad month, whether it's a bad situation, you've got to be willing to have the attitude to continually move forward. Don't stay in a fence. Don't stay mad. Don't continually shed light on the negativity of the situation. Expect positivity. And when it comes your way, run to it with full speed. And then the last thing you're going to do during this 12-month test is to look back better, okay? I want you to look back over that difficult 12 months, and hopefully it doesn't last 12 months. But again, the mindset is that I'm willing to endure this for at least 12 months. And when I look back over this 12-month or 3-month or 6-month period, whatever the case may be, did my young athlete improve during that time? Even though this was a difficult situation, can I see where it made her better? Can I see where it took him to a new level, whether that was internally, externally, socially, in his character, in her social skills, whatever the case may be, okay? So the last thing I need you to do is look back better. So I hope this talk helps you to deal with not only difficult coaches, but difficult situations. If you're someone who's in need of a player performance consultation, go to jp3training.com. These consultations include every aspect of player development, from psychology to performance to parenting. Yes, that's right. That's mindset, that's skill set, and that's environment. And when you put those three things together, hence the name JP3 Training, you will have an athlete that is growing to his or her highest level.